How smart families protect their heirs from taxes and divorce. A will alone won't help solve all of the problems for your family's taxes, creditors, potential future divorces. And yet most families' planning stops right there at the will. The wealthy know something that most families don't, that true protection happens through invisible layers, quiet legal structures that handle the money long after you're gone. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and talk about some of these structures and how they might help you and your family for generations to come.
This is where your legal background really helps you in our practice. Being a lawyer, you have a working understanding and you've used these tools. So you'll be able to share a lot of those insights with our viewers today.
So we've sat across from too many high net worth families who thought a will was it. And as we've peeled back the onion and we work with our estate planning counsel, we're able to determine and create plans that protect their children from themselves and their children from creditors and outside people. Our job is to help avoid the problems that you don't want to occur.
It seemed like more and more clients are worried about one or several of their kids not being able to handle the wealth they amassed if it would go to them suddenly.
Well, I think there's a few issues. So let's take the most common, divorce. Let's say it this way. Some families like their in-laws more than they do their children. And I've had cases where they've kept in-laws in the will, strangely, even after divorces. And they've loaned them money or they've helped them out financially. You just never know.
Yeah, which can make sense if there's grandkids involved. I can see that. It's not as commonplace, but I can see that.
So I think the second area is the kids without the interest in finance. Now, we come from a family or a multi-generational firm, so it's innate. The management of money started when you were about 5 years old, and it continues today. But not everybody has that. And there are certain kids that don't feel comfortable managing the money, don't want to manage the money, don't trust themselves to manage the money. So that's another area. And I think the third area is protecting money from things like creditors or litigation, or if you're in a car accident or something bad might happen to you, you have a bad business deal.
Yeah, protecting it from bad decisions, essentially.
So I think creating these layers in some cases does make a lot of sense. If your estate is $250,000, there's not a lot you could do. If your estate is $5 billion, you can hire all kinds of people, but those are the extremes. For high net worth families, there are a lot of solutions. So I think the misconception today is that high net worth families, again, they think everything's taken care of because they have a will in place. Sometimes they forget about their business and does their business have a succession plan, that type of thing. When you look at a will, there's more finality to it. You settle the estate within a year or two, or maybe even 3. The assets then go to where they're supposed to go, and nothing's controlled after that.
You lose all control.
And again, sometimes control could be good and sometimes control could be bad. There's some kids that will do more with the money than the parents did.
This video is for educational purposes only. Always, always consult professionals before making legal, tax, and investment decisions.
So according to a study by a firm called Cerulli & Associates, 70% of advisory firms serving high net worth families use grantor trust as the most common wealth transfer technique or transfer vehicle. So these aren't fringe tools or things that are used every day. They're just not that commonplace. People don't always speak to them, certainly in the 50-cent words like grantor trust or revocable life insurance trust. So I think the biggest issue is if your plan stops at a will, I think the question has to be asked, are you missing anything in your plan?
We have dialogue with clients. Are you concerned about your kids if they inherit a lot of money in a sudden situation where you pass on? Are you concerned about your in-laws? Are you concerned about your grandkids? And I think those questions lead to answers that then move us down a certain path. And sometimes that path is solving the problem with a trust.
And I think another thing worth noting is no two situations are alike. Because your neighbor or your friend or your cousin or your brother-in-law did it one way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. It has to be tailored specifically to you and your family and the family dynamics. And you need to be able to change it if anything ever changes in the future, which inevitably it will.
I always say every puzzle is different, and that's the allure and the intrigue of this business to me, is that no two situations are alike. It's always fun to put together different puzzles.
So let's look at 3 invisible layers. First one is a revocable living trust. Now, I think a key point for the viewers is that trusts may have different uses in different states. So we live in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, trusts aren't as prevalent. Going through what they call the probate process is not the end of the world in Pennsylvania. In fact, it's pretty efficient. As our clients leave Pennsylvania, move to Oregon or Florida or North or South Carolina, wherever it may be, that changes. And we work with local counsel down there to determine whether trusts are needed. So a living trust, a revocable living trust, can have a number of uses. One of the things you can do, though, is you can structure them to be in existence for a long, long period of time to try to protect from things like divorce and creditors. One of the big mistakes that people make is they assume that a will avoids probate. It doesn't. And again, state by state, different states have different rules on probate and different worries, different concerns about it. So I guess the best practice is, if it makes sense for your family, to create a family trust and then make sure it's updated periodically. Update, we can't stress enough. This needs to be reviewed every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and you have to make sure that all the assets that you own are inside the trust. Otherwise, it creates all kinds of problems. I mean, a lot of times people have to go through probate and the trust finality of it, which just completely complicates the cost structure and the efficiency of your plan.
The second one are called grantor trusts, and these are tax-efficient vehicles for passing on wealth. And again, the wealthy families do it, but they've got hundreds of millions of dollars or even billions of dollars to put in these things, and they've got the ability to pay lots of different people to handle them, whether they be investment managers or tax accountants or attorneys. It's like the mistake is oftentimes not looking at these types of things for future planning.
Yeah, and taking advantage of the lifetime gifting sometimes get missed as well.
And again, with the update to the estate tax laws, less and less people are subject to them, but that could change, stroke of a pen.
Yeah, they talk about these tax changes as being permanent until the next administration, right? Or to the next.
Permanent until somebody changes them.
Yeah.
So best practice, we talked about a second ago. Having qualified legal counsel help you with this is vital. We don't do this ourselves. 2 heads are better than 1, 3 are typically better than 2. And to get to work with our clients and counsel and whatever other professionals may be necessary is extremely, extremely important, and probably a mistake to many people.
Yeah, and if you relocate to another state, you have to get local counsel in that state because the rules can be completely different and the solutions that make sense can be completely different than.
And again, state by state, it all depends on what's up to you. So the third is what are called beneficiary controlled trusts. And these allow essentially your kids to be trustees with the provision that if something goes awry and they want to name a secondary, corporate, whatever it may be, trustee to protect the assets, they're able to do it.
Is it fair to say these are relatively new solutions, or they're being utilized more and a lot of people are not aware of their attributes?
I think there's, with the complexity of life, I think the supplemental needs child who may not be able to physically or mentally handle the money, with the proliferation of all this and the proliferation of wealth in this country, that these things are becoming, trust law is evolving, and they're creating new ways to try to protect assets from people.
And the recent tax law changes have made these more viable and sensible to use as well.
Yeah. So let's give you a couple real life examples. A client called, went to the doctor. Doctor said, "I'm sorry, but you got 90 days to live." Called us. I said, that estate planning that we've been talking about for the last 3 or 4 years, maybe it's time to go through with it. She ended up leaving all of the money to her daughter. Her daughter, at the time, spent all of her time on Home Shopping Network and QVC and had boxes. She had so many boxes in her house, she didn't remember what she ordered. and she had unopened box after unopened box. Anyway, long story short, she blew through the money in about 2 years. She took friends and family on vacations. I mean, it was kind of sickening to see this whole woman's net worth go up in smoke in such a short period of time.
Clearly, she shared her money, but not her value. That's what they're taught her.
So I think that's a very important point. We keep talking about money, 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 money. And what nobody talks about, or few people talk about, are the values, passing on the values. And usually, generally, to be a high net worth family, there's some hard work involved and blood, sweat, and tears that goes into your wealth. And that doesn't pass down in the generations.
And you have to share the values, and the values have to be received. So both things have to happen. And it's really a function of communication and taking the time to really try to drive home your values and how maybe they should be embraced from the next couple generations anyway.
So contrast that with another family who set up trusts for all of the kids so that the money is protected. They get ample income. They have ample resources for the money. And then when the parents passed away, everything worked smoothly. The money was protected. The money was managed. The costs were reasonable. So I think the question is, what's important to you? How do you preserve the family harmony and continue things into the future?
You create a trust that meets your needs. Every trust is different and can be crafted to be very specific as to what you want to have happen. And that's the beauty of the communication of between us and the clients and us and the attorneys.
For example, I think most parents, or I'll use grandparents because age probably makes more sense. Grandparent dies and there's a grandchild that has money and there's money there for education, and the 18-year-old kid says, I need a car to go back and forth to work. And I saw this beautiful red Corvette in the parking lot at the showroom. I think I want to get that for my transportation to work. And the trustee says, no, but I'll buy you a 2020 Honda Accord. Those are some of the types of things that the trustee is the gatekeeper to protect. Again, we're protecting money from outsiders. We're also protecting money from the kids themselves or grandkids. So what do you do next?
Does your current plan protect your heirs from taxes, creditors, court involvement? Explore whether your wealth transfer structure offers flexibility and protection.
So consider how trust can reduce the risk. And above all, make sure that the legal tools that you use are aligned with your values and your long-term goals. Remember, we want to try to create the scenarios that you want, the outcomes that you want, but we also want to avoid the outcomes that you don't want. I think that's really, really valuable advice as you think through this long-term planning. So a will says what you want, but a layered plan protects that money for generations to come. It's not about complexity. It's about clarity, making sure that everything is in place, and then communicating with everybody as to why you did it and how it's structured.
These legal structures are the what, but they're only as strong as the how. In the next video, we walk through the retirement red zone, which is the final decade before retirement, and how to structure everything from income to risk. If you want to see how these pieces fit into a larger plan, watch the guide next.